Not being religious, not being a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim, not believing in a God does not automatically mean that you are anti-Judaism, anti-Islam, or anti-Christian. Being an atheist and even being anti-theist does not automatically position you as the opposite of something within the scope and confines of that religion. So, for example, if all of those Abrahamic religions have a God, Yahweh, Allah, does not mean that if you are not a believer, then you are automatically Satan or some kind of demon or even a worshiper of those things. It's absolutely ridiculous. A lot of people, for example, get it wrong about the type of Satanism or satanic church that Anton Szandor LaVey started. And even though I think that the Satanic Bible is pretty stupid, it does have some interesting things to say. But from what I know, Anton Szandor LaVey was not a supernaturalist, meaning he didn't believe in ghosts and gods and devils and angels and demons. And his book actually reads a lot more like the, personal development books of the time with just a slightly darker bent. And the rituals and the sigils and the prayers or whatever those things, those chants inside there, a lot of that stuff he did just to play up to and to entice and appease is the word I'm looking for, to appease those people who were a little bit more supernaturally minded, who were a little bit more into that paranormal part of it. And it's a mistake to think automatically otherwise when someone doesn't believe in your favored system of religion. Just because someone isn't down with your dogma doesn't automatically mean that they are down or up with some antithetical or antithetical dogma. My understanding completely eliminates the necessity or even the reason. It logically annihilates the types of deities that are talked about in some religions. And what happened with me is I began with the ideas, some of the attributes, which I called omnifactors, that are attributed to the God of the Christian Bible, which is the God of Judaism and is the God of Islam. Supposedly there's just one God, right? There can't be more than one. And according to these faiths, these primary religions on earth, God is the creator of all things, right? So this Allah, Yahweh, is the creator of everything. And the problems you start to run into with that logically break down the entire anthropomorphic type of deity that these religions talk about. And so very simply, this is what I mean. It completely defies logic in all ways, shapes, and forms. So you have an all-powerful God. That means omnipotent, all-powerful. Now, in order for the God to be all-powerful, this God has to be omniscient, meaning all-knowing. In order to have absolute power over all things, you have to know all things. And not only do you have to have all power over all things, but you have to have all power over all things at all times and know everything at all times. And the only way that this is possible is through the primary Omnifactor, which is omnipresence, being everywhere at all times. Now, automatically, just with that alone, it completely annihilates the idea of any kind of anthropomorphized God and any kind of political system who's at the head of a throne that has angels and archangels and armies of other angels and spirits and is against an army of Satans and devils and demons. Automatically with omnipresence, all of that just is done. And that's why my eternality axiom, which was formulated or articulated in conjunction with the Omnifactor paradigm. So the eternality axiom and my Omnifactor paradigms were pretty much simultaneously developed, although I published them separately, the ideas. They're very, very close to each other. It's been a lifetime of work looking at these things and wanting to believe and have faith and figure out some kind of answers to life, and always coming up against this problem with the omnifactors. And so the eternality axiom was an axiom of necessity when I realized that all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. That's the axiom. That's the eternality axiom. All knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. And in order to be in all places at all times, that means that everything is one inseparable substance. And because of that, it cannot be delineated or broken off into one creator God that supposedly created everything. There's not, you don't break off from all. There's no anthropomorphization of all being. There's no differentiation or separation of it, because once it becomes separate, it is not eternal. It is now limited in scope to a finite being, and it does not talk to people and have a voice like that. Like what we're talking about here, if this thing exists, is a creature that I will concede can have the kind of power that seeded the Big Bang and started this particular universe. But it is not the end-all, be-all of all existence, and this particular universe is not all that there is. The beginning of our time in this universe is not the beginning of all time, because there is no beginning of all time. That's the very definition of eternal. In all places at all times, all knowledge and all power is. That means there's a logical impossibility. It breaks down logically. Just like it's on a grander scale, the same idea of a couple of conservation laws, conservation of matter and conservation of energy, which state that matter cannot be created or destroyed, it simply changes form. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it simply changes form. Conservation of energy is directly connected to the first law of thermodynamics, and we know from Einstein's equation that E, energy, equals M, mass, which is a measure of matter. So mass is matter, it's just a certain amount of it, times the speed of light, c, squared, times itself. Energy equals matter. They're interconvertible. The atomic explosions, nuclear explosions, atomic bombs show this. We split apart atoms, get lots of energy from it. And vice versa with energy being pushed through these particle accelerators and atom smashers. We're getting matter from energy and energy from matter. They're interconvertible. And they are both conserved, matter and energy, meaning they cannot be created and they cannot be destroyed. They simply change form. So if something cannot be created, that means it always already was. And if it cannot be destroyed, it means it always will be. That is synonymous with eternal, forever, infinite, whatever, how you want to put it. Eternal is the best word for it, though. So this idea, you once you start to give an entity a personality, you've automatically restricted it to place and time. Something like that cannot be outside of place and time. Therefore, something like that, if we are delineating it into this character, then this can explain it's not an infinite, eternal, forever being that was there before time. It doesn't even make sense to be before time. Even it's even incomplete in my eternality axiom to say that all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times in some ways, because all times is a limitation that's dependent upon referential cycles. We have the sun, and there are planets going around it, and moons, and it's these cycles, these rotations, with which we derive time from, in reference to other objects that they are passing by and spinning around by. That's how we measure time. And even the fact that how we measure a second, right, has to do with frequencies that cause changes in a cesium atom. This is so crazy. It's something like 9,192,631,770 cycles of radiation, like how that goes around. That's what oh my God, that many cycles. That duration is what we consider to be a second. And for some reason, right, but this is what my point is. Let me calm down here. My point is that we derive time in reference to other things. And like, as I was just saying, that's a cycle, a type of cycle. It's like 9 million, cycles per second. Well, over 9 million cycles per second, 9 million hertz. Okay. And so now, again, my whole point of this is clarifying, because people will peg you as being evil and hurl all kinds of epithets at you and insults and give you labels in order to discredit you, to belittle you, they'll send all these accusations, especially when they have low understanding and low education, or they're just extremely zealot and close-minded and various other maladies of psychology, mental status, and emotional makeup. And sometimes they're just malicious and know better, and they're doing these things for whatever agenda it suits them, for whatever. And so you have to be, well, maybe not have to be. I'm highly recommending and suggesting for people to be a little bit more open-minded than this kind of dogmatic and reactionary type of sentiment regarding people who have evolved past basically superstitious beliefs and long outdated fallacies and fantasies that don't serve many people. Not everybody finds comfort in external deity type, these archetypes and these stories and legends of these deities, because at a certain point, for some people, for me, the sense of it completely breaks down once you start understanding things from a certain perspective. It is almost impossible to go back to that idea. And again, I am willing to concede that there may be a very powerful being, right? For example, let's just go back to fictional examples that maybe some people might be able to understand if they were exposed to the movies, right? But the Men in Black, the first one, when it ended, it basically showed that our galaxy maybe, or even the universe that we're in, was basically a marble inside some other super giant creature's locker in, some intergalactic or higher dimensional train station. I don't know what the hell that was, but I'm willing to concede that this is a possibility, because it makes a lot more sense than trying to reconcile that an eternal being somehow has an individualized personality and gets mad at things and floods planets and rejects people from its kingdom of so-called paradise and sends them into a lake of everlasting fire. It's ridiculous to me. But it doesn't automatically all of a sudden but I don't automatically then become the devil or one of the devil's servants, because I don't believe in any of it. I'm not saying that I'm not making people's heads spin around and puke pea soup colored stuff and speaking in ancient tongues and having them do all kinds of vile, blasphemous things, and none of it makes any sense to me. It's all people doing this stuff. All of the things that you hear about hell and all of the punishments that are talked about in hell, all those torments, these are all stuff that people have done, are doing, and probably will do for a long time. All of that hung, drawn, and quartered and burning at the stake and peeling off people's flesh and like flogging and all of these things, terrible things that I'm not going to, talk about more, are things that people are doing to each other and have been doing to each other for a long time. These are all descriptions of human tortures and human torments. And, it starts to get even more ridiculous when you start to look at the etymology and the definitions of words, and maybe they're not exact, and maybe dictionaries and even artificial intelligence databases are programmed against this and won't admit these kind of things. But look at the words, the ancient word for hell or separation from God in the Hebrew language, right? One of the older ones, Sheol, right? And then you move up the scale, the next language in line, and you look at Greek, right? And you have the name for the sun is Helios. And then after that you have Latin, the name for the sun is Sol. So it's really interesting because S-O-L, and then you have H-E-L, right? And you got an S-H and an O-L, you have Sheol right there. But then if you take the E from the Helios, you have Sheol. You have all the ingredients you need from the Hebrew language to make Sol and Helios. And it's Sheol. And what's really interesting about those other two words that are names for sun, for all intents and purposes, for this description here that I'm laying out, because of the age of the sun that's been around for billions of years and will be around for many more billions of years before it, turns into a red giant and burns and boils up the earth and everything else around it in the solar system, right? But billions of years in comparison to a human lifespan is functionally eternal. And right now, the sun is a plasma, which is the fourth state of matter, which is a solid, liquid, gas, and whatever else, and functionally is a lake of fire. So, functionally eternal and functionally a lake of fire, it's an everlasting lake of fire, the sun. Helios and Sheol, and Sol, Sheol. I mean, obviously, clearly I'm delusional. Clearly I'm a maniac for even daring to think these things. But I'm not evil. I'm not trying to be evil. I don't want to go around and torture people and shove hot irons, in holes in their bodies and watch them scream and lament and weep and gnashing teeth and all this, weeping and wailing and that. Like, I don't want any of that. Like, my attempt here in life is to go on adventures and have excitement and explore the world and commune with people and focus on luck, L-U-C-K, love, understanding, compassion, and kindness. So because I'm looking at these things objectively and making connections that they may not be true. These are not linguistic connections that people are making all the time, every day, right? If you search on AI, you search on Google, you ask people, they'll say that no, these connections are completely fabricated. The human mind sees patterns where there aren't really patterns, and Sheol and Sol and Helios are not related, and and all this stuff about the everlasting fire and the plasma of the sun and functionally eternal and functionally lake of fire. It's all just high speculation, right? I'll take that. I'll take that it's high speculation, but it's high speculation enough. The speculation is high, yes, but it's logical enough for me to think that there's got to be some connection there, especially when you start to think of where all these languages came from, this Proto-Indo-European. And then you start to look at some of the similarities of the oldest written languages, like in Sumerian and Egyptian, and how close a lot of words in Egyptian are to Hebrew. I mean, and also things that people won't admit, like there are so many people who are Jewish and Israeli and speak Hebrew who don't want to have anything to do with Egypt and say that their languages aren't the same and that these things weren't derived, like, that just because, Amen-Ra was a sun god and was the god of the right-hand side because the people in Egypt faced south and the sun rose, on the left and set on the right, and that was the Amen, and the right side as well as the word for correct were both Amen, and that's what it means in Hebrew, and we use it in English, and Yamin, and the same thing in Arabic, and it means this is correct, and it happens to also mean the direction right in those languages as well. Very coincidental, but and that started in ancient Egypt, but no, they're not connected, and they don't want to admit it, and who said that's where it came from, and people will get mad, and they'll throw up their hands, and they'll start screaming at you, and become quite irritated, and in a very, very, very hysterical way. It's almost like they feel pain because of it. And there's so many things like this that no matter how you look, it will be denied. I got one for you. I wrote this article years ago. This is a little tangent, but it just goes to show how your mind can find patterns that you won't find in any kind of textbooks or anything anywhere that will be admitted, but the connections are pretty striking. They're pretty clear. So years ago, I wrote a blog called Orgasms of the Gods. And in short, here's what I found. So we have this Egyptian goddess who has a Greek name, and it's Isis. And when we look further back at all the different renditions of Isis around the world, we'll find Esther. In Europe, we'll find Ishtar, Babylonian. We'll have all of these things. Easter, East Star, like Ishtar. We'll have, in the various different languages, oyster, right? We have Oeste and Este, East and West. And then you look at, other Greek words for the name like Ost, Ra, Astra, and it has the word Ra in it, which is a sun god. And you have Ost, right? Ostet, like all of these different things, right? And that Astra, Astro, Asterisk, right? These are all Greek words for stars, right? And so I don't know what happened to my brain, but I was looking at the book of Genesis, and I just thought I thought to myself, oh, this is Genesis is. It's like saying the gene of Isis. And because Isis is a fertility goddess, a goddess of sex, birth, those kind of things. And I thought, oh, gene of Isis, that's interesting. Could that be what it is? And then as I thought about it, again, I don't know what was going on in my brain. Again, this is high speculation. This is me pulling together tenuous points of relation that may have nothing to do with each other. But hear me out, because this gets interesting. And I started to think about other things, because I speak a couple of different languages. One of them is Spanish. And that the structure, the syntactic structure, meaning the order of how words, phrases are put together, that the adjective noun sequence is different in English than it is in Spanish. For example, if I want to say, in English, when I talk about a cat of a certain color, I'll say a black cat, right? So you have the adjective, the color, black, before the noun, the cat. In Spanish, you say cat, black, gato negro. And so when I was looking at Genesis, and these are all ancient languages that are derived from, like, we got Proto-Indo-European. These are all older languages that follow a lot of that same kind of syntactic structure. And so I'm just playing around, and I look at Gene of Isis, and then I thought, I just kind of changed it up a little bit. What if it was, one of her earlier names, instead of like the purely Greek, some of the words that came before, like Ast, and what if it was, Gene Ast or Gene Ast Ra, because Ast Ra, these are more Egyptian words, right? The Gene of Astra. And then I thought, well, what if we flip that, like how, black cat, we got cat black, gato negro. And so I moved from Gene of Astra to flipping it around, the two different parts of that word, and got ostrogene. I thought, that's fascinating. Ostrogene. Sounds very much like estrogen, if you think about it. And gen in estrogen basically comes from the word generate, to produce. It's not really that far off, and it's very similar, related to, Isis, Ishtar, Inanna, Esther, Astra. These are all goddesses of fertility and birth, production, producing, generating. So, to me, ostrogene is the gene of Astra, the gene of Isis, Genesis. It's even in the Genesis. It's the beginning. It's the start. It's the seed. How many coincidences do you need to pile up on top of each other? That's what my brain was thinking. That's what was happening in my brain. All of these things about the beginnings and producing, it was just way too much of a coincidence. And then we have estrogen, ostrogene. Come on. Am I that much of am I that crazy? Am I that much of a maniac to make that connection? But wait, there's more. So I logically started to think about her brother and consort, which means, some incest going on there. She was having sex with her brother, basically. So her brother was also her husband or mate, in which they gave birth to. And by the way, so first of all, his name is Osiris, right? And they gave birth to Horus later, but we don't need to get into that right now. And all the death cult stuff in the underworld, the duat. But hear me out. I'm still going here. So I started to think about Osiris. And okay, remember, we have Isis. We can look backwards and find her name is Ast and Ast Ra, right? Ra being the sun, and Astra, ostrogene, right? Estrogen. And so I started looking at Osiris, and I started looking at some of the other derivations of his name back to the ancient Egypt. And just like you have Ast, you have Ost, Oster, Oster, or Ostro, right? Ostra, right? Just some slight variations in the name. But when I started playing around with that, something really, really fascinating happened. I remembered an appliance company that many people have seen, and I've seen it all over the world. I've seen them being sold in China and all kinds of other places. And it's called Oster. Remember, like oyster, right? These other words that are derived also from Isis, Ishtar, Esther, Easter, right? Oyster, East Star, right? They're all related words. Esther, Oeste, Este, East, West, Spanish, like all these words are all related. And then there's an appliance company called Oster, O-S-T-E-R. But wait, there's more. When you look at the logo for this appliance company, Oster, the O has a star inside of it with one of its beams blasting out to the right, crossing over into the S-T-E-R. How many coincidences upon coincidences do we have to pile up here before we admit that there's something interesting going on? Even though in no lexicon and no language, no libraries, you're going to find this information. Am I uncovering some really, truly esoteric, obscure, occult information? I kind of think I am, but then again, maybe I'm a maniac. I'm completely delusional. But all of these different things, I mean, this is not just a little pattern here. But listen, wait, I'm not done yet. Because that's not the conclusion. Remember, we got gene of Isis, gene of Astra, ostrogene, estrogen, right? Which happens to be a female hormone. Here's the other coincidence. It's a female goddess. It's a goddess. It's a female deity, a goddess. And it happens to fit neatly into the female hormone. So now, Oster, right, was Osiris, and we find a star and his name, which is closer to the Egyptian name, because Osiris and Isis are Greek names, right? And so we have something that's closer, Oster, Esther, oyster, right? Word that's definitely the name for star. And even, I think there's some town, some place in Europe that I looked up some time ago that has this name, but I'll have to look that up again. I know I published it somewhere. But look how neatly this fits. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. Testosterone. Let's slow it down. Test, oster, own. It's like the word test, and then that appliance company's name, Oster, O-S-T-E-R, and the word one. Testosterone. The name Oster, just like Astra, fits into the hormones. And it happens to be that this is the name of a male deity, a god in the Egyptian pantheon. So here you have Osiris being Oster, testosterone, and Isis being Astra, ostrogene, estrogen. I mean, there's something there. Or I just have a wonderful brain. Nobody's brain is better than mine, like Sheldon Cooper said in the Big Bang Theory, something like that, right? My brain is better than everybody's. My brain is better than everybody's if I'm coming up with this and it doesn't exist anywhere. If it's not real, why am I doing this? Why? What level of fucking crazy, insane, or am I, or is it just crazy creative? Like, what level am I at of kind of delusion, pattern seeking, like maniacalness am I to just, I mean, for real, over and over again, there are so many coincidences. The fact that, first of all, we have test osteron, it's in an appliance company, and even has a star in it, and it's a male deity, and then we have estrogen, ostrogene, gene of Isis, Genesis, it's a female deity, a goddess. So you have a male deity representing the male hormone and a female deity representing the female hormone. And they happen to have to do with reproduction. And they're almost like the same thing because you got Astra and Oster. They're really just counterparts of the same thing, like two sides of a coin. And they have to do with reproduction. I mean, I'm just asking you. Like, look at how many coincidences there are. Just even in the book of Genesis, it's like right in front of your face. Genesis is the first book. The first. The Genesis. Gene of Isis. Ostrogene. Estrogen. Production. Birth. The start. Osiris, Oster, testosterone. Come on, man. It's even got a big penis sticking out the side of the star in the company's logo. Oster, just a big old erection just sticking out to the right when you look at it. as far as I remember. Right? And it's a star, a 4.0. Come on, like, look, I know I'm getting a little carried away here. I'm a little excited. I'm having a bit of fun. But it's just because this kind of stuff is fascinating. And you can find it simply by just being open-minded. Now, I went on that long tangent, and I was really just starting to talk about how, automatically, just because I don't believe the things that people believe, and I like to look at this kind of stuff. This is exploration. This is adventure. This is creativity. This is passion. This is fun. This is linguistics. It's history. It's got geography. It's got everything. I mean, this is awesome. This is spirituality and science and philosophy. This is fun stuff. Or am I just a geek? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But out of everything else that I've said, you got to admit that this is one hell of a good bit of pattern seeking and pattern recognition and creativity and just high speculation going on. If nothing else, right? I mean, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. This is angels and demons level creativity. Like, if this kind of stuff was properly formatted, it could be put in a book, right? You combine this with my blogs that I created, Olympus Has Fallen, Down the Rabbit Hole, and the subsequent books that came out of it, specifically Down the Rabbit Hole, Olympus Has Fallen, which is an expansion off of that. They first started off as blogs on the website hypnoathletics.com, and then I turned them into a book, which was basically just the blogs, but edited a little bit because it was a mess, kind of chaos, and made for readability, and then expanded in Down the Rabbit Hole, Olympus Has Fallen. Like, seriously, like, what is that guy's name? Is it Dan Brown? I can't remember the name. Whoever wrote Angels and Demons, right? And like Tom Hanks was in the movie where they were chasing down, I forget, right? But it's for real, right? If I was a better writer of some kind, that kind of like at the very least, it's a good seed of an idea. And I'm trying to pump myself up here. But the point is, and you can see where I'm going here. Like, I'm doing historical linguistics and, speculation and being creative and pattern recognition and what else is in there? But and none of that is me, chanting for your bones to burn or whatever the hell demons are supposed to do. I'm not trying to take anybody's soul. I'm not trying to lead anybody off some path that's supposed to be some narrow path to heaven and put them on a wide path to hell. None of this stuff, because it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care about that. It's dumb. Like, to me, it's dumb. I'm not saying, look, people, you can derive whatever comfort you want from it. I've made those attempts for years. I tried to go to church with my dad. I tried to do the Catholic thing. I went to the youth groups. I got baptized several times, born again several times, prayed. People prayed over me. I've been in the Bible studies. I've been in the groups. I joined Christian cults. I followed along with the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the International Church of Christ. I checked in with the Scientologists and the Saka Gakkai International and all the Nam Myoho Renge Kyos and Om Mani Padme Hums and it just, there's a problem. When you really understand the fundamental nature of reality is eternal, and you realize the omnifactors, that all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times, then you realize that any being that is confined to certain spaces and doesn't know that certain things are going on at certain times, it is not the end all be all. It may be a very powerful, a shockingly powerful creature, but it is not an eternal creator God. And furthermore, if this powerful being that did create our universe, starting with the Big Bang and start our time in referential to all of the physics and constants that we have here and all that, and is the creator of all that, and acts the way that it does in the great books, then I bow to nothing, I bow to no one, and I will never submit to that thing. Not something that acts like that. I am awake and aware and self-conscious and confident enough to reject being ruled by a being that has that kind of attitude. I don't care. That is anti-theistic. That is not atheist. That is, I am anti-theistic. That's my just in case. So I am atheist, right? I don't believe in any kind of gods at all, like the way people believe in gods. There's no anthropomorphized being that's dictating. All that shit is politics. That's all political. That's all of those whole structures are the same old ass medieval structures of kings and queens and servants and subjects and all that shit, and knights and soldiers and regents and dukes and all that stuff. That's what all the Bibles are talking about, is that kind of political structure, and I'm not down with it. Right? It's the whole reason supposedly that the people came over from Europe to get away from those systems. Like my homies that from a distance in the band I Am Abomination, and their song called Deicide, which means to kill God. The very last thing that's said in that song is no gods, no kings, no worship, break free. And so that is anti-theistic. So I started off being very traumatized by religion and the idea that I was being watched all the time by God and being basically forced into obedience. And then I became agnostic and then atheist. And now I teeter between being atheist and anti-theist, because my whole thing is that I know that whatever being created the Big Bang and started our universe, if it in fact does exist, right? I'm willing to admit and to concede that that's possible. But if that's so, and if that's our theos, if that's our God, right? Then I'm against that God, and I'm like, do with me whatever the hell you want to, but you're not gonna have my submission. I claim my eternal sovereignty. I'm not your subject. I'm not part of your whole deal, your whole weird fucking crazy, torturous, angry, baby crying ass deal. I'm not cool with that. I can't be. It doesn't make any sense. So that's my just in case, right? Like, because there are a lot of people who will claim to be atheists or don't believe in God or agnostic or, all this other kind of stuff. And then some of them will sneakily, they'll, say some prayers and open a Bible and in their heads think, just in case, God, you're there, please, in my deathbed, and there'll be the people who on their deathbed say some Hail Marys or whatever and ask God to forgive them because they really don't know, because they're afraid of the unknown. You should reference my talks that are going to be, that I've already released one, but that are coming up, and I coined a new word, I'm pretty sure I did, which is athanatophobology, which just basically means study of not fearing death, and it underlies a lot of things. Athanatophobology, because thanatophobia is the fear of death. So athanatophobology is the study of not fearing death. That's where I am. And there's a really good reason for all of that, because I've chosen a very specific pathway for any kind of jarring stimulus to lead to, rather than being panic, hysteria, fear, and chaos. And instead, I've encapsulated it in a cold, silent, dark, calm fury, basically, potential fury of attack. And it's basically like a version of hulking out, that, you know, when Bruce Banner feels pain or has some other kind of trauma, he turns into the Hulk as sort of like a self-protection mechanism. That's me. Any pain, fear, death, any of that other stuff like that, it automatically just gets transmuted into this psychotic fuck you, I'm ready to attack energy. That's it. No whimpering, no crying, no begging, none of that stuff. That's what anthropomorphic is about. All right, so, but again, that's where I teeter on. Like, a lot of people have this just in case, then I'm gonna, whimper and beg and just say my prayers on my deathbed, and because I'm not sure, the fear of the unknown, right? Well, I'm claiming that I know for sure, based on, my eternality axiom, based on the Omnifactor paradigm, that all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times, that there is no thing like that happening, that we are responsible for, that we are completely and totally sovereign, and that we must claim reality, which is another word. It's related to the word royalty, just like how the Brazilian currency, real, spelled R-E-A-L, means royal. And so when you really come to terms with reality, and you know it for sure, and you claim it for your own, then you become royalty. Only when you accept the truth and you reject fear of death, and you understand and continue to study and spread the truth of anthropomorphic, the study of not fearing death. Once you get to the fundamental nature of not being afraid to die, and anything that comes after it, and any potential afterlife. But just in case there's some fucking soul-sucking Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah fucking type of being that created a universe that somehow traps my consciousness in some weird fucking technological construct and threatens me with eternal punishment, I'm going to put both my middle fingers up and show my asshole and every other fucking insult, and just be like, fuck you. I bow to nothing. I bow to no one, and I will never submit to you. Just in case. That's my ready-made response, just in case. And that's what it means to be anti-theistic. But I am not satanic, because I'm not trying to lead people into a place that's going to get them burned in hell, right? I'm not trying to curse people. I'm not trying to put boils on people's skins, or like get them to like murder and do terrible things to their family and each other, and rob people and take from anybody. Like, that has nothing to. It's like, I don't care about that stuff. It's fucking dumb. I wish people would be more peaceful and better with each other, or at the very least, leave each other alone. Right? And I'm also not saying I'm not a good guy either. I'm very seldom nice or kind to people, because I stay away from them as much as I possibly can on any, more than superficial level. I see and meet and talk to a lot of people every day, and people come up to me all the time. I mean, I'm sitting at a park today, and a lady came over and sat down and asked me to play. She heard me playing and wanted me to play a couple more songs, and sat there while I played music. It's not the first time that happens. It happens all the time, everywhere I go, in every state that I've been, in every country that I've been in. People are always coming up to the guy who's playing the guitar, or the guy who's doing backflips and spin kicks and stuff like that, or the guy who's wearing chains and all black, and it's just how I am. And so I'm used to being approached by people all the time. I'm also very physically fit, and so this is a thing people talk to me about all the time. How do you get so ripped? How are you so vascular? How blah blah blah? You look like a movie star. Just so I'm used to it, but I do my best. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. I tolerate people. Not that I'm saying that people need to be tolerated, but I'm just kind of a little spoiled with my own time. I don't know what it is. You've already listened to me for this much time, so you know that I'm a little bit, I'm not, I don't drink Kool-Aid. Stuff is not good for you. Even the regular Kool-Aid that doesn't have whatever Jim Jones put in it. I'm just not down with it. And so you can drink all the Kool-Aid you want. It's not my cup of Kool-Aid. not my cup of tea. I'm not for it. So that's all I'm saying. But because of all that stuff that I said, right? Or even if I just a little bit of it, I don't believe in God. I'm not a devil worshiper. I don't want to sacrifice children and do all that stuff. Leave that to all those people on the Epstein list. That's for them. Those are evil motherfuckers. Has nothing to do with me. I'm not with that. All that shit. You got to be some weird ass, like, who the hell, like, what kind of weird, who are you that you believe in Satan as like a horned devil thing that is wicked and wants to do all that shit, that wants to like hung draw and quarter people and burn them at stakes and rip their skin off and sacrifice children and drink blood and like what the fuck, man? Like, that's your shit. That's your whole God thing. That's your whole religion thing that does all that stuff. That takes things that human beings have been doing to people, doing them to them now, and will probably be doing in the future, and then claims that that's what there's some devil running around doing, and that devil happens to be in opposition to your crazy ass, equally as crazy God, according to the Bible. Who doesn't even make sense, who can't even get fucking turning on the lights right, let there be light, and then fucking like 4 verses later then finally creates the sun. I mean, I'm not, okay, you feel me? I'm done with it. But I will not be your scapegoat to throw upon me all these things about, he's a devil worshiper, he's evil, he's Luciferian and satanic. All the fucking people who are all about, y'all are all fucking nutters. Okay? All the people, like, you look online, and all these people are like, the government and the Luciferians, and they're satanic, and like, they show all the symbolisms, the Baphomets and the 666 and the goat horns and all. All of it is just fucking crazy. And again, look, I'm willing to concede that all of those kind of creatures exist, but they're not part of some kind of supernatural, paranormal, metaphysical, holy spiritual war going on. That's all trickery. The spiritual war is the global brainwashing agenda by the verifiers that make you believe all this stuff. All of this stuff that has people divided is what has the people conquered. Divide and conquer is the evil name of the game. That's what's going on. Men versus women, young versus old, Gen Z versus Gen Alpha, trans versus not trans, I don't know, Christian versus Muslim versus Jew, lesbians versus gays, I don't know how it goes, blacks versus whites, Koreans versus Japanese, like, what the fuck, man? All of that shit is evil. Anytime you start feeling mad about some other group because somebody said something about that group and you're getting all worked about it, you have been officially infected by the real evil agenda. All of that hateful shit. Anytime you feel divided from other people and you start looking at them as other than me and as the enemy and as enemy combatants and as that other religion and that other color and that other race and that other gender, and you're all mad at them, you've been fucked. The global brainwashing agenda has you by your Osiris and Isises, by the fucking balls. Okay, whether they be your ovarian balls full of estrogen, Isises, or your fucking testicle balls full of your testosterone, austere Osirises, okay? They got you by the nads. They're pulling your strings like a puppet. Because you're all mad at everybody. Look at them, a Trump supporter, and look at this person. Obama's a nigger. You know, all just, it's insane. Just focus on being well-rounded and doing cool things, man. Lady. Person. Study metaphysics. Really study spirituality, science, and philosophy. Get into an art. I like music. I write lyrics. I sing. I play musical instruments, compose music. I record it, and I put it out there. Practice martial arts. Become confident. Learn self-defense. Healthy living and self-defense. Healthy living is a form of self-defense. Stop eating garbage. Eat clean foods. Move a lot. Sleep well. And share it with other people. Even if you're like me and you'd rather stay away from most of them because they're divided and conquered and hating each other and acting really stupid. But that's the way of the world. And the only way we're going to make it better is, sometimes I hate quoting Gandhi, but we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. I think I've said enough, right? I mean, I went off on the deep end for some people. For me, this is just everyday. This is my everyday thoughts. Like, this is like nothing. This is a walk in the park. That's why this is a stream of consciousness recording. Like, this ain't nothing to me. This doesn't even sound crazy to me. I know that it sounds crazy to other people. That's why sometimes I start making like certain qualifications and stuff like that. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm just, you know, just want people to understand where I'm coming from. I know not everybody will, and people are going to be so mad about this stuff, right? But it's just because you haven't learned to think critically, and that's, you know, it's a problem you're gonna have to resolve on your own. Take some read a book about critical thinking. Learn what the definition of logic is and the definition of reason is. Learn what the definitions of ethics and morals are. Right? Learn a little bit of science. You know? Look into what I said. Look into the Eternality Axiom. All knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. That describes the Omnifactors. Omnipresent, everywhere, at all the time. Omniscient, knowing everything all the time. And omnipotent, all power all the time. And the only way those things can happen, I mean, come on. Look at it for yourself. Don't take my honey, lemon, and coconut water drinking word for it. Think for yourself. I am Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander.